Hi, everybody. Uh, this is for the 1102 classes. So if you're in 1101 and accidentally click on this, you can listen if you like, but it's not for you. It's for the 1102 class. So one of the things you guys and girls are going to be analyzing for in your essays is looking at cultural fears. Okay, we got 5. That's 10. You got 5. That I need you to understand. So you need to put this in your notes. You have access to it. You'll have this video to watch on repeat until you understand it. And you have me to email and have a Google Meet at rbarker.wesca.edu. No, rbarker@wesca.edu. There it is. If you want to set up a Google Meet, okay? This isn't that complex. It's just a couple of them you might not be familiar with. The first, cultural fear. What these cultural fears are fears that are universal. No matter what the culture, these 5 fears have been identified by scientists as universal. Everybody has these fears. And the first one is extinction. Okay? At some level, every culture has a fear of death. Okay? Ceasing to exist in your own consciousness. Okay? It doesn't mean that we live every day with this fear, but we're all aware of our mortality. And when we're put in situations where that mortality is threatened, then that's when that fear of extinction kicks in. Okay. Now, before I go any further, I neglected to say that do not think of fear as something terrible. Okay. I don't know if any of you saw Inside Out, I think it was a Pixar or Disney animation. When they introduce fear, the little girl, her name is Riley, she says the person introducing says, this is fear. He keeps her safe. Okay, and if you think about it, we're all ingrained with these fears. You've all heard about fight or flight. Well, that's an instinct that we're all born with that helps keep us safe. You know, we have to quickly evaluate, can I fight and win and survive, or do I need to remove myself from this situation? So I don't want you to think of fears as always negative. They get a bad rap. They really do. But most of us don't walk around every day thinking about our deaths. Most of us can even say, yeah, I'm not afraid to die. You might have a religion that gives you hope after death, or a plan that you will be reincarnated and come back, and that gives you comfort, so you don't really fear death. But most of us, I have found in discussions, it's not death we fear, it's the pain we imagine that comes with it. But that's extinction. Second is our fear of mutilation. Okay. And that's literal mutilation, getting a finger chopped off, getting an arm chopped off, losing a leg. But it's also anything that violates the integrity of our bodies. Okay. That's why we don't like barking dogs, because in our subconscious, we fear that dog's going to bite us and violate our body in some ways. It's why we don't like bees flying around us. It's why we don't like snakes. Most people, have no problem with snakes, but we don't like snakes just popping out at us. It's why we look both ways before we cross the street, It's why when you go to the top of a really, really tall building or a bridge and you look over and you get that queasy feeling, that's your fear mechanism telling you, okay, back the hell up. You need to protect yourself. So we listen to those voices a lot of times, and it helps keep us safe. All right, number 3 is our fear of separation. Okay, you see this in every horror movie. Isolation is a key trope of horror movies, because if I can just dial 911 when some monster or someone is threatening me, then you're not isolated, right? I want you to imagine, when is the last time you remember truly, if ever, in our modern world, that you were isolated, that you didn't have a phone, you were away from neighbors, in a location where You didn't know if anybody was around. I mean, some people dream of being isolated and away from all the noise of civilization. I get it, you know. But again, you know, in modern horror movies, they had to figure out a way, and you'll see it in all the horror movies now. It's how do you isolate someone in the modern world? Well, you got to figure out how to, you know, make them not have access to their phones. So at first it was, okay, there's no signal. Well, now, you know, there's signals everywhere. So then it's, oh, the battery's dying. So they got to figure these things out, you know, in a believable way. But yeah, being isolated is key, because we don't like being separated, unless you're, you know, that's your personality, and there's nothing wrong with that. But most of us find isolation and separation from our comfort, you know, people, our comfort zones, very disturbing. Okay, those are the ones that are pretty easy to grasp. The next one is loss of autonomy. Okay, A-U-T-O-N, autonomy. Okay, loss of autonomy. I hope I spelled that right. I got my degree after they invented spell check, so forgive me if I got it wrong. All right, loss of autonomy is the ability to make decisions for ourselves. Okay, no one likes to be out of control or under someone else's control. All right. We are autonomous creatures by nature. We like to be in control of our own decision-making process. When that is taken away, that, you know, causes a lot of problems. When you're taking the wrong turn in a horror movie and you end up next to a cabin full of, you know, mutant hillbillies, well, you've lost your autonomy. If they trap you, you know, you don't get to make choices anymore. And that's a key fear that we all have if you think about it. Finally, the last one, and it's the one that most people struggle with, is ego death. Okay? Ego is E-G-O. I got that one. It's our sense of our own identity, how we see ourselves. So, for example, we have multiple identities. You might see yourself as a good father, or a good teacher, or a good brother, or a good son. And then something happens, and it threatens that identity, our sense of self. So, for example, say in the 1920s during the Great Depression, men's identities were, hey, I'm a good husband, I'm a good provider, I have a job. Well, then when those jobs went away, and these husbands were walking the streets, you know, like literally like zombies, going door to door just looking for work, it affected their identity of being the provider that they thought they were. And a lot of them committed suicide, jumped off buildings, because they could not manage that fear and felt like a failure, and their identities totally changed. So those threats to who we are. Another example might be, say you're at work and you think of, or part of your identity is, I'm a good worker. And then suddenly the boss is yelling at you in front of a customer about something he feels you did wrong. That's humiliating. You know, that's a threat to your identity as good worker, you know. So those are the five, I did it again. Those are the five cultural fears that we will be looking at some text and analyzing for. Again, if you have any questions or any confusion, please email me at rbarker@westga.edu. Okay, rbarker@westga.edu, and we'll set up a Google Meet, or we can do it back and forth through emails, whatever's convenient. Okay, stay healthy, stay well, and I will see you in the next video.